Hi and welcome to Rub the Wrong Way. Christy here. I'm really excited to bring an episode today for you guys, a long form episode. I hope you've been enjoying the Mini-Sode Monday format up until now, and I'm sorry that I missed one last Monday. Easter totally blew my brains out, so I hope that you guys can enjoy this episode of Rub the Wrong Way. And today I'm speaking with Tricia Hughes, the CEO of Massage and Myotherapy Australia, or the association formerly known as AAMT. I like to think of them like Prince. But this conversation really focuses around the changes that were introduced or the proposed changes that were introduced last year at the Massage and Myotherapy conference down in Hobart. You guys might remember that I actually did I recorded a couple of episodes when I was down there, and all of this information had literally just come to light. It was all shiny and fresh and just newly announced. And so I really hope in today's follow-up episode that the listeners really get some idea of the body of this certification program to start with, but also kind of the depth and breadth that the Association Massage and Myotherapy Australia are covering to try to help elevate the industry and to elevate all of us, because the rising tide rises all boats. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And if this is the first time that you're listening to the show, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. And if you would like to, I would love for you to go back over the archive and have a bit of a listen to some of the previous episodes. I really enjoy your feedback. And of course, if at any stage you would like to rate and review me on iTunes, I would be very appreciative of that fact. So without any further ado, I would love to introduce you guys to Tricia Hughes, CEO of Massage and Myotherapy Australia.
Welcome to Rub the Wrong Way, a podcast for massage professionals. Each week, we undrape the taboo topics of massage therapy life, go deep on industry issues, and help you discover practice-building tips and tricks from industry experts. Grab your laundry basket and join your host, Christy Melling, as we strip down, bare all, and help you get rubbed the right way.
Welcome to Rub the Wrong Way, Tricia Hughes. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Christy.
It's really great to have you on the show. I'm really excited. This is now an interview I've been chomping at the bit to do since basically we spoke, I think, last year at the national conference.
That's right, it was last year at the conference.
Yeah, which is actually almost a year ago. So the conference will be coming up again in May. And yep. I think as a participant in that conference, I feel like it was possibly one of the biggest announcements that you guys had made in a long, long time. We're going to get into that in the show.
Sure.
But let's have a little conversation about who are you, where are you from? Let's talk about Tricia Hughes, the early years.
Oh, God, the early. How far back do we need to go?
Well, let's go back to when you started as CEO of what was once known as the Australian Association of Massage Therapists, but is now known as Massage and Myotherapy Australia. Let's talk.
Okay. I might take you one step further back than that and quantify that. I've been now working in not-for-profit organisations for the best part of, I hate to say this, 35 years.
Ooh.
Yes, and that ranges from adult education to social work to welfare to community development, which is what I specialise in. I then worked in the vet and university sectors at RMIT. In the student union, which is where I learnt all about unionism and representation and rights and equity. And then I started working for large international associations in recruitment and corporate space. So my experience sort of spans the whole range of the not-for-profit world, bar charities. So I guess it was 2013, they'd already merged 5 associations into sort of that were incorporated, which is a much smaller body than a company limited by guarantee. And they put everything in together in one bucket and needed somebody to kind of sort it out a little bit.
So that was in 2003.
2003, September.
Wow.
September the 23rd, 2003, I was appointed.
And that was an interesting bucket, I imagine, that someone handed you.
Well, look, it was. I mean, the people at the time had done a really good job. They'd just getting 5 organisations to agree to come together is a huge achievement in this industry. And the distance we've come in that time has been phenomenal. There's always going to be people on the outside, but that's not just this industry, that's all industries. Now, whether I use the word industry, sector or profession, I'm saying the same things. It's different things to different people, but this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about us. So it was in 2003, and there was a lot of vitriol about, oh, no, we're this, no, we're that, no, we do this, no, we do that, I'm a this, I'm a that. And one of the things that you learn to do in these situations is pull everything right back and go, okay, what's the core of what we do? What is that core? And it's to look after people. It's to make people feel well.
So are you talking about massage now, or are you talking about as an association?
Well, in both. Because, you know, if people don't feel comfortable and don't have trust around the organisation, then they're going to sit on the outside and they're not going to participate, and you want people to be engaged. But whether it's the association or whether it's the therapist, what we are all here to do is to improve people's health or help them improve it themselves. So that was the main reason that I was actually attracted to the association, coming out of a big corporate space where I'd been recently, back to more my roots, which is community development, where the basis is really you do yourself out of a job because you teach the community to look after itself, and then you go. So that's the background of how I came to what was then known as the AAMT, and it already had the acronym, so we had to work with it.
So you came in 2003. We had 5 associations at that stage. They were state-based associations.
That's right.
Yeah. And what you helped to do was bring those state-based organisations together and kind of amalgamate them all into what was a year ago still known as AAMT.
That's right. And they all had different standards. They had, you could join one association with no qualification and then become a remedial just through years of service, for example. Others, you required what was known back then as the State Training Board qualifications in each state, or a privately owned certification certificate or diploma. So there was no consistency at all across the 5 groups. So the first thing was trying to sort of draw a line in the sand and say, all right, how do we go about doing this? And at the time that the first version of the HLT training package was being discussed, of which we sat on the consultative thing, and the board at the time said, okay, so going forward, that's the minimum standard that we will accept from here on in, because it was something that was already defined, something that we had input into, and anyone who came prior would be grandfathered into that process. So it made it a reasonably fair process in that way.
So we've brought everyone together. We've done all the things. You've been amazing at trying to bring the profession of massage therapy into a different space. Let's talk about some of the things that you've done in the past to help massage therapists kind of let's go for some government stuff that we've worked on.
Oh, wow.
Let's dig deep.
Let's dig deep. Well, I mean, we've just put out, and it's on our website, a full list of what all the submissions that we've actually done since 2003. The first thing for us, there was only 1 or 2 health funds at the time, back then, and gradually we earned the trust through good administration on increasing acceptance for massage and remedial massage at that time for rebates. The government works a lot slower now, and it's also changed to how it performed back in 2003. When you think about it, when was the last stable Prime Minister that we had for more than one term, like a 3-4 year term Prime Minister? Go back
Howard.
to good old Johnny. So really, whether you liked him or not, that was what was known as stable government. Now, to change anything in government takes a minimum of 3 years, because it's a very slow process. So now what we have and what's evolved is this more American model of government that people change. I mean, I think off the top of my head, we're now on our 6th federal health minister since I've been in this role, and that's not including the state-based ones. So it's turned more to a popularity contest than a policy, where people commit, to the health of Australia. And as organisations, that makes it very hard, because you're 2/3 of the way tracked down one strategy, and all of a sudden the sand shifts, and we've got to get our thongs on and run to the other side of the field. It makes it really awkward, and I can understand frustration of people out there, but the frustration in here is even greater at times. But probably the largest work that we did was with the Coalition of Australian Governments. We were heavily involved in the discussion around what's now the National Code of Conduct. It was done through the Victorian Health Department down here. Were the ones who administered it all, so we had a huge opportunity to have a lot of input into that. We didn't get everything we want. You never get everything you want from government, but we do have now a national code which is about to be finalised. Victoria's just finished. Tasmania's the last state to come in, and their consultation is on now. So if anybody in Tasmania has any opinions, they should go to the Health Department site and put them down there.
And what we'll do is we'll put a link into the show notes.
Fantastic.
Yep, for any Tassie therapists who are looking to have some consultative process with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there, I think the last one's to roll it out, and that's taken the best part of 2.5 years. So it was 6 years in development, 2.5 years in implementation, and then there'll be a 3-year review period before we can have any opportunity to make any comment on how effective it's been.
And so let's talk a little bit about the Code of Conduct, because I'm not sure that every therapist understands the implications to them. So what are the requirements for Australian massage therapists now in regards to the National Code of Conduct?
Well, it's interesting that it's called a National Code of Conduct when it's still different in every state and territory in Australia. Of course, because the only way that they could actually get the health ministers at the time to agree at COAG was for each jurisdictions to still say, we still want our Health Act and our health definitions in it. So, for example, you might be known as a therapist in one state but a practitioner in another. So all the wording is different across the 8 jurisdictions. Now, I think how it applies is to members and it doesn't matter which association people belong to, it's first comes your code of ethics of your organisation, right? What overrides that is the National Code of Conduct in your state, and you can go to your health website in your state and you can download it, and it should be put on the wall in public view. Right? People say, oh, I've got it in the drawer. The public need to see it. Okay, that's really important. And then, of course, above that, you've got your health acts and the federal law, so such as privacy law. So when we sort of people challenge a code of ethics at an association level, you think, well, it's only part of a hierarchy of guidelines and rules which become law, which becomes federal law, which everybody has to do. So it's really important that people are familiar with the code in their state. Mm-hmm. Fortunately for us, it matches a lot of our code of ethics anyway, and we're in the process of merging the two documents together, which is huge. And then we'll put out some explanatory notes as to what does that mean? What does that mean to me in practice? What does that mean to me around privacy for my clients? It's a lot. We're surprised how many people are unaware of privacy issues and how far that extends, whether that extends, if it's in a clinic, if you're talking to somebody in the coffee shop, I treated Joe the other day and, that's breaching privacy, having a little chit-chat on social media, people just in the ever-changing space that we're operating in don't realise how they can very easily breach a code of conduct.
And I think this really nicely potentially segues across into how Massage and Myotherapy Australia are going to be rolling out in the next some time a certification program for massage therapists. Now, I know when we spoke last year at the conference, this literally had just been announced. I talked to you, I think, moments after you came down from the keynote.
Yep.
And we spoke about this, and it was still all very new and all very exciting. And now, almost 12 months on, how is it going? Where are we going with this program? And what can therapists anticipate this program is going to look like for them?
Okay. So we announced it last year when, for years there's been calls for a regulatory act for massage, myotherapy, remedial massage, and ongoing debate with ministers in each state and the NRAS regulatory scheme and APRA. No, and they're going to continue to say no. They have no interest in regulating the industry because we don't pose a risk.
So what you're saying is we're too safe.
We're way too safe, Way too safe and probably way too effective. So, because people often see, we're regulated as a status symbol. Regulation comes in because something's dangerous. You look at your food hazards, you look at your biohazards, you look at occupational health and safety. All these things are regulatory because they are dangerous. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some therapists out there that may be a danger to themselves and others, but the actual practice of massage is very low risk. So the government has said, no, we are not interested, go away, do it yourselves. They said it in government talk, but basically go away, do it yourselves, it's your industry, we're happy to help you, we're happy to support you.
But what we're not doing is doing it for you.
We're not doing it for you and we're not giving you any money, which is the general response you get from governments these days. So our board looked at this and said, well, you know what, we can sit here and we can do nothing, or we can have a go. And we decided to have a go. Now, we'd participated in something called the Natural Medicine Register for something like 6 years. Started off with something like 24 associations being involved originally, and the discussion and dialogue and discourse just went round and round and round and round and round and round to the point where everybody just threw their hands up in the air, and that was it, and that was the end of it. I think the final groups fell out early this year. We walked away for it after investing considerable time and said, look, it's not going to happen. There's two ways to do this, and you look at it the way government actually develops things. They put out a discussion paper which you respond to and a framework, or they hold lots of consultations and then they'll develop one. We bypassed the full consultation process and did it internally with our nearly 9,000 member therapists. And brought in focus groups and did it that way and said, we're not going to have regulation. So what we need is a national standard that can be used as a measure, as the training package was used back in 2003, where therapists can measure and benchmark themselves against each other if they want to, or just for themselves for personal auditing. And that's where certification came out of it. So it's not Are you a good therapist? Are you a bad therapist? It has absolutely nothing to do with that. What it is a system of, I don't like auditing, but the word auditing, because it's not an actual audit, but it's probably the best way to describe it at the moment, of saying, okay, here I sit in my practice. Do I know all my laws? Do I know all the requirements of the client? Do I know that when the contractor comes on site that they're safe to fix my oven or microwave to warm my towels? These are the types of things that we've found and identified as gaps within the training, because the RTOs are keen to train massage, the hands-on skills. And the best we could find was one college that did 49 hours of business within their coursework, which for me, if you're running a business on your own, is an awareness. It is not business at all. So in some way, that leaves you with two things. People go into somebody else's practice, right, which sometimes is good and they get support and mentoring, but they can also learn bad habits. But they don't learn the skill of running a business, the marketing of it, the accounting of it, and the actual ability. So what we did was we put all the things we thought therapists should know. Doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you're grandfathered or you're a myo or you're a bachelor, all the things we think therapists should know. How to employ, if they employ, work cover, if they require it, superannuation, all those things, and we've put it into one big system of certification. All right, and what will happen is that people will choose where they fit into it. So you're a single operator, for example, you don't employ anybody, you don't do that section. So it's been sectioned off. And what we've tried to do is make it as simple as possible to people have a workbook, and that will be an electronic online workbook. They'll just work through it. They'll go, yep, tick, upload my document for that. Oh, I haven't got one of those policies. How do I make one? And we'll provide the educative support for them to do that. But it's not going to cost them anything. I think for me is this would have been a lot quicker had we not gone down the line of being and providing the courtesy to all the other associations to get involved in it. For me, you get much benefit out of collaborative work, but we just didn't get any cooperation or some cooperation from groups who assumed they knew what was in it, even though they'd never seen it. All we were doing was saying to people, you actually just need to sign a confidentiality agreement and we'll show you what we've done. And those organisations have chosen not to. Now, we're still in discussion with one association, and hopefully they're going to bring to the table some of the missing pieces that we've got. We're currently at the stage now that we're trialling it. We are training support people who will come in to the clinic to look at things, make sure your towels are where you say your towels are, those sort of things. And we expect to be rolling this out later in the year.
Wow, that's an amazing feat to be able to go from announcement to rollout in 12 months, around 12 months. That's pretty phenomenal.
Look, one of the benefits is, Christy, that we haven't had to sit and negotiate with other associations, but then the disadvantage of that is that we also haven't benefited from their input, which we would have liked. So there was a lot of stalling tactics, but the board said no. We'll just plough on through, and if it's just us in the end, it's just us in the end. We've started this, we're going to finish it, we're going to put it in place, and if it only ends up being our members, so be it. We'd prefer it not to be, but it can also be opened through a process where somebody from another association may also be able to get certification, so it's not, without leaving their association, or, they don't have to change associations. It's not a recruitment process. It's a check and balance process to make sure the public have confidence that when they come and see you, that all the little ticks you've got there up on the wall, actually you have them. So it's about credibility.
So let me just paraphrase this, if I may. the idea around certification, and I think this was where potentially a lot of therapists may have misread the situation potentially, that they were saying, but I've already done my diploma, advanced diploma, degree or whatever.
Correct. Yep.
How can you come in and say, how can the association come in and say, I'm better or worse or all these sorts of things? And so you've basically, what you're saying isn't that you're going to come in and do anything to do with their qualification as a hands-on therapist. But you're going to do everything to make sure that the frameworks and that the support systems they've got around their business is the things that they should be doing by law and the things that they should have to protect the general public. Am I right in saying that?
You are absolutely 100% right. It was never, ever anything to do with their education, their qualification, or their ability to massage. Nobody's going to come in and say, okay, give me a massage, and where were you trained, and what did you do? And,
so basically, as an assessor, you're not going to be able to come in and get a free massage?
No.
Damn it.
Sorry, that would be a conflict of interest and inappropriate.
Jobs I'm not applying for. No.
Sorry.
I'm really heartened to hear that, because I have been following this certification story since it basically, I'm not a journalist, but it broke when I was at the conference. But I've been following it with interest, and I'm really heartened to hear that what the association is wanting to do is to help practitioners put better business practice into place. Because as a massage therapist who's been in the industry for a while and had a business and done all these different things, it's the lack of support from a business standpoint has always been a challenge. Yeah. And so it sounds like a great program, and I'm excited for therapists to be able to go into it.
I think you're right. It is exciting in the sense that it's not about, first, it's not mandatory, so we're not forcing anything on anybody. Everybody has a choice. Every therapist out there chooses their value and how they want to do it. Some people want to just stick with the clients who've got. Some people really want to promote their business. Other people want to work in specific industries such as aged and palliative care, which are coming up, particularly aged care for us oldies. That's with the creaky bones that's coming up. It's a big industry that's out there. I think people need to look a little bit further beyond where the industry currently is and go out. But it also, what it does is that the industry has relied on the government saying, yes, the sector is good. The government will never say that, because you can't hold them down to anything these days. But I think if the industry itself can show the public that it's been thorough and transparent in the way that it's assessed people, and that business, yes, you've got a qualification. Yes, you've had a police check. Yes, you can work with vulnerable people. Okay, you're great to go and work in an aged care facility, then that's great. Or if I'm, heaven forbid, a pregnant woman, which at my age would put me in a very high-risk category, I should be able to ask the therapist, okay, so what's your training in this? Have you done it as an 8-hour part of your curriculum, or have you done a 3-month specialist training course in that? And I think that's what one of the benefits to the therapist, that those of who've specialised, who really want to focus into particular groups of people, will be able to distinguish themselves in that way. That doesn't mean that the other people can't practice in that space. It just means the consumer has the choice of where they want to put their health.
So as part of the certification program, will Massage and Myotherapy Australia be running an education program for the general public around what certification means?
Yes, there's some huge stuff, some which I can't talk about, but we will certainly develop with the brand of the certification and a whole range of media that will be going out. Yeah, absolutely. that's the investment.
Yeah, because I think that's part of the drive, I guess, for me as a therapist personally, to look into certification would be clients asking me, am I certified?
Sure.
So it seems like it would have to be that double-pronged.
Well, it's actually triple, because the other player in the space, of course, is your health jurisdictions, your health commissions, your government-owned aged care facilities. So, where are they turning to? The government now is talking about taking care of health back out to the community to save themselves costs, and that it's a more successful way of keeping people in their home. How are they going to measure those people that are going into people's homes, for example? So the certification fits perfectly with that, in the sense that we've already done the checking for them.
Yeah.
So, the support hopefully will also come from, we've got something like 50, 60 stakeholders across Australia in the health jurisdictions and spaces that are so keen to help us and get this rolled out. We were quite overwhelmed. We thought we might get one letter, but we got more support, and also from really high-end people who said, show it to us, we'll help you tweak it. It's heartening to know that they're committed to quality assurance and public health just as much as we are.
And I guess that really talks to, if you do want to take it there, the benefit of massage just generally. Like, people, obviously, like health, like stakeholders are going, well, we see massage as valuable, but we want to know that it's a quality service. So
that's right.
We would like to assure it and know that it's been assured, and we would like to be able to offer it to the people who are our stakeholders.
That's it.
Yeah, and I think that's that's a really heartening response from, I guess, industry outside of us, to be able to say, thumbs up, double thumbs up for massage. Yay.
Absolutely.
So I've had a few questions
sure.
from the Facebooks, from a few people online. I did let a few of my followers know that we were going to be having a conversation today.
Okay, yeah, good.
And a few people have been asking mostly about things, people like, how's the relationship going with the health minister? Somebody wants to know about our relationship status with the health minister. Are we committed? Is it complicated? Like, is he still single?
Well, one of the handy things, he comes out of Frankston, so he's actually not too far. I can get on the train and go down and visit him if I have to when he's not in Parliament. One of the things that really gave us a bit of a thumbs up in the office a few weeks ago, we'd written extensively to Minister Lee, and we even had a meeting with her, and unfortunately her comment was, I don't care if people smell orange peel in their own homes or not, as long as it's safe. And we thought, I think she means aromatherapy, but we won't correct her because it's rude to correct the Federal Health Minister. Anyway, and we'd been communicating with that office for ages, and we got a letter from Greg Hunt within 2 weeks of him being appointed, which we didn't initiate. He initiated it, and it was about the certification, saying it's great that industry and the whole sector is looking at credibility and quality assurance, because they've got a whole range of other issues around not just our sector, but, we're talking immigration, we're talking illegal trafficking of people, we're talking prostitution in states where it's not regulated. So they've got bigger problems. So I think the minister was quite close saying, yes, please do this, because it helps us. Helps define, it helps government and the police and the Department of Public Prosecutions. It helps people define legitimacy.
And I think that's probably one of the things that we haven't spoken about yet, is how the certification program provides legitimacy and helps to prevent. Let's talk about how the program maybe prevents sexual assaults or abuse. Like, where is... I know that's a topic that you're very passionate about.
Yeah, it is. And if somebody's going to do something bad, they're going to do it. It doesn't matter whether they're certified or not certified. I think there's a lot of people that come into this, and we see it all the time, a lot of people come into this sector with an absolute dedicated commitment to assault somebody. End of story. That's why they're there, which is why we're now pushing for stronger screening at the training end as they enter the RTOs. You know, should they have a police check before they even go in there? So that's one of the things that we're looking at. The credibility, I think, comes out of the transparency, because it's not just the association looking at individual practitioners, whether they're certified or not. There's a transparent and auditing board that will look at that as well. So, to give you an example, one association we approached said, look, we think our processes are robust, we think they're absolutely amazing, we've never had any problems, and we said, okay, fine, but they're not transparent. And transparency is huge when, you know, you come into these things. So somebody who's really transparent about what they're doing and what they're doing in their clinic, you'd probably think there's less of a likelihood, and I'm not saying that it won't happen, but there's less likelihood that they're going to be doing something wrong because they're more informed. A lot of people, and the complaints that we see, particularly around the sexual assault, don't even realise that they've sexually assaulted the client. There's just such an ignorance around and complacency around draping and touching and just in the industry at the moment. So what we're hoping to do, that a lot of the information we're putting out will make people rethink and review and reflect about what they're actually doing in their practice as well.
I think that anything that's of reflective practice is really obviously very helpful, and it's so disheartening to read the stories that seem to be coming out like most recently around massage therapists assaulting their clients. And I think that you can't imagine, I can't imagine ever having somebody do that. It's so...
It's pretty horrifying. It's horrifying for the industry, I think. And we're now, because we're in the age of technology, we've got people filming clients while they're on the table with secret cameras. We've got, this whole range of things that we'd never even thought of, and it's to the standard therapist, the whole concept's abhorrent, but you can't stick your head under the doona and say that it's not happening, because it is. And it's happening in all associations, and it's happening outside of associations as well. So anything that we can do that helps the jurisdictions find a pathway to get better convictions, in my book, I'm going for it. The board's going for it. The association will go for it.
I think that we, again, part of the promise that we make as therapists and as, I guess, humans is to protect the general public and educate them. And that's
Absolutely.
part of the program is to help educate the general public, and by educating therapists about what is and isn't right.
Yes.
And keeping them on their toes about the fact that they shouldn't inappropriately touch people or potentially rub them the wrong way.
That's it, yes. Rub them the wrong way.
So let's talk a little bit about health funds. I know that's a popular topic for people to be talking about here in Australia.
One of my favourites.
One of your favourites. Let's talk about how you feel if the certification program will keep legitimacy for massage therapists in that health fund space. I know a lot of therapists have built their business around offering health fund rebates.
Yes.
Where do we see that landscape at the moment, and where is it potentially going in the future, if you can talk about that?
Health funds, I think what people have to realise are health funds are individual businesses in their own, and they've got their own preferred provider schemes anyway. So I think to dispel that there was this fear that, they'll only take the certified people. I don't think, I really can't see that happening. One, because they've got a volume of membership themselves that they have to keep satisfied. And that does not mean that that person's not getting what they need from it and claiming from the fund. The government, again, are doing another review into private health insurance. I wouldn't want to be in private health insurance in this day and age. They're doing another review into it about costs and a whole range of other things that are hidden within it. And the trend for most Australians these days is not to take it out. They're usually taking it out because you get a tax rebate when you do your tax return. There isn't really a connection at this stage between the certification process and health fund rebates. I think you'll see health fund rebates go up and down depending on what they need to attract to their membership. It's a pure case of economics, of demand and supply. They want to attract younger people. What do younger people want? They want naturopathy and things like that sort of stuff. So they go on a whole campaign and they get people in. And then they start to pay out the rebates and the money starts to go out the door. So what do? They start to cut it down again. And that's how they work. It's got nothing to do with whether they like massage or they don't like massage or they don't respect us or, that's emotive stuff. They operate on a pure economic model of giving their members what they want for a short period until they start to lose money in that space and then they move to another, to another modality. It's a pretty cynical view, but it's a standard business model.
It is. It's an economic model. And it's a consumer, it's obviously a consumer service. So and again, same with certification, you can opt into health funds or you can opt out.
That's right, and you can opt into one that's owned by members. There's now this new group that have got together, which are not for profit or not, and it's all about giving people choice. And people just need to do their homework before they make decisions.
I think that's it's a really, it's an interesting kind of thing. I think a lot of therapists have this conspiracy theory that at some point health funds are out to get massage therapists. And I feel as though, maybe in 2009, 2010, that was maybe accurate when Medibank Private decided to cut everybody off at the knees. But I think it's difficult to know what they're going to do from a business standpoint because they are businesses and obviously they have a commercial interest.
They have a commercial interest, and I think, you look at Medibank Private and the changes that they made, they simply had too many therapists on their books. Mm. So they made a criteria to minimise the amount of people coming in till some of the others go out through natural attrition. This is a standard economic model. It's not you were good before this date but you're not good now. It's a simple model of review. And I think one of the things they did, and I think HCF also did this, but they went over, like if you were a registered provider with them, they went over the last 2 years, and if you hadn't had a claim with them, then they dropped you because obviously your clients aren't using that system. So,
interesting.
Yeah. Why continue to use something that's not being used?
Yeah, exactly. And why have to maintain that? Yeah, for the just in case somebody. Huge.
And their administration is huge. Mm. When we say to members, it can be anywhere up to a 6-week wait to get numbers. We've got their information to the funds within 48 hours. It is just the time it takes for these big machines to turn their wheels.
The gears to grind, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we have had a question in regarding the partnership with Massage and Myotherapy Australia and Endeavour College.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about the partnership that you guys have forged there? What was is there a reasoning behind that particular partnership or?
Yep.
Can we go into that?
Sure, yeah. Yes, she says. See, I've got no secrets here. when we did our strategic review, and we did it early in 2013, and we surveyed all our members, a lot of people were looking at pathways into higher education. Some people want it, some people don't want it. As an association, we looked at it and said, well, education is not our core business. Do we want to build a bridge and create a graduate certificate, for example, from advanced diploma into university? Or how do we want to go about this? Now, while we were having this amazing discussion, the whole world of vet training and higher education training has gone through this whole turmoil, changing in funding, changing in structure, and a whole range of other things. And we said, you know what, why don't we actually just leave the education to the education people, let the experts do what the experts do. So we went through a process where we brought in an independent review team from Melbourne Uni, and the two universities, private universities that are offering the bachelor, were really great. They were very generous. They gave us every single piece of their IP so it could be compared against each other. To make sure where the standards were. Now, we had some criteria that we wanted, and for us, the focus was on research. Because as we've learnt from the private health review, the evidence-based, the research is the primary stuff that's moving into the future. So we said, well, that's great, and these are both clinically sound programs. Where's the research component in it? And that's where, on the time, at the face of it, and the equity of delivery around Australia, Endeavour came out ahead in that space. So that was the decision that the board had to make that partnership. And that's come back to us and to the members through benefits, conference exhibits, speakers that we're not having to pay for, those type of things. All members get, whether they're students or not, get discount through their bookshop. So for us at the time, that was the best decision. Whether ongoing it is, it's not, but a lot of people, and I don't have data on it, but verbally a lot of people are now considering higher education than the pathway through vocational education. I think it depends on, are you good with your hands or are you good with your head?
It's a good question.
Because there's always going to be the need for hands-on, really good hands-on practitioners. And what we need to build for the future, for the sector to stay alive, is people with good hands-on, stuff, but really great head stuff. Yeah. So that we can get the research done. And we're really excited because we've just got our own research fellow PhD through the Australian Research Centre of Complementary and Integrative Medicine, so UTS, specifically for us, for massage myotherapy. So very excited about that. We're just waiting for documents to be signed so we can put names out and do stuff.
That sounds very exciting. I think, and I think that there is very much a hands-on heavy. It's obviously a hands-on heavy industry. We're heavy-handed, so to speak. Oh, I'm full of puns today.
Well, look, there was an announcement that came out the other day from CCH to say, guess what? Nursing that was in the vocational system, 30 years ago, that went into bachelor's degrees, going where? Back to the vocational setting. Because, if you can't deal with the stuff in nursing, the gooey stuff up front at first, there's no point in going on doing 3 years of bachelor degree study. So they're putting it back as a pathway. So back into the vet system. So it's people have to pitch themselves where they want to be. They have to decide for themselves and not feel, intimidated that they have to get this or they have to do that. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things, that it's that all or nothing kind of mentality, that potentially you're only going to be able to do a degree and you're not going to be able to do a vocational program to be able to be hands-on. Is that that's not what's happening, is it? We're still going to be able to do our very touchy-feely diploma of remedial, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's still in the training package for quite a few years to come. So yes, you'll still be able to do that. And the fundamentals of even the bachelor degree, those units are massaging people. So you're always going to have that hands-on. It's not going to be people sitting behind desks just assessing you. Getting you to rub yourself with a tennis ball or something. Although that works at times when you're desperate.
Yes. So let's move on to talking about, you mentioned some conference speakers. Let's talk about the upcoming event of the Massage and Myotherapy Australia National Conference.
Yeah.
Who's our draw card for this year?
Oh, Jay Shah, who was in Melbourne the last time we were in Melbourne. He comes out of the US, and if you are into fashion at all, this is the man that you want to come and see.
If you are a fashionista.
If you're a fashionista, you need to come and see him. So we've got a really strong program this year. But again, there's a level pitch there for everybody. I think the day of the old, where you have this stream for that type of practitioner and this stream for this type of practitioner is gone. We have the speakers, and you pull from that what it is you need and take it. That's the a really key message that comes out of that. I like the program, but then I always like the program. I love conference. I hope the weather improves for everybody by the time you guys arrive down here. And there's still plenty of time to register that as well. We'll just put out the first reminder by email to members, but non-members, everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome.
Yes.
Fantastic. And where will the conference be held?
It's at the convention centre, so lots of space, right next door to all the hotels. And if people get a little bit tired on, sometimes in the afternoon you get that bit of conference lag. There's the DFO there, so you can go out and have a quick shop if you like as well.
Have a cup of tea somewhere nice.
A bit of chai turmeric latte or something.
What?
A chai turmeric latte. Turmeric. Oh, turmeric latte, beautiful.
Oh, Melbourne.
Yep.
Every time, Melbourne. Well, Tricia, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a delightful and enlightening conversation. I always love having people on the show who want to conversate about all the different topics that we have. Now, if there was anything that you could leave the listeners with today about any of the topics we've spoken about, what would be the one thing you would want people to take away from our conversation?
Gosh, that's a hard one, because I've got my own personal ones. I really hate the concept of therapists using the term my clients. It's like my staff, my whatever. You don't own people. People have free choice where they go. But I will tell you, I attended yesterday the Institute of Company Directors luncheon, which is a leadership luncheon about what is going to be big over the next 2 years, regardless of what industry and sector is. The first thing is customer service, and the other thing is initiative. So again, let's go back to that reflection thing. What is it you're doing that you're not maybe that good at? Can you get better? Can you get somebody else to do it? Or, what's new? What else can I add? What value can I give to my current clients? So that's my takeaway for the day.
Fantastic. So looking for value always.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Tricia. It's great to chat with you.
Thanks, Christy.
Thanks for listening to Rub the Wrong Way. We'd love to connect with you at our website, www.rubtherightway.com, where you can download your free copy of The Hustle Method, 6 Steps to a Kick-Ass Massage Biz, or on Facebook, Rub the Wrong Way Podcast, or on Twitter @RubbedWrong.
And don't forget, guys, to join me here every Monday with a Minisode Monday episode. Short, actionable tips to help get your business up to scratch. Awesome. See you on Monday.